So welcome to a new weekend project. This is going to be about my Giant TCX SLR2. This is the 2017 model. I bought it in 2018. It's been roughly 3 years and I've done 8,000 kilometers. Loads of different upgrades that I will guide you through in a second. But there are two main things I would like to do this time. One is the bottom bracket bearings. I just removed them and I want to replace them. And the second one is that the front wheel hub is basically gone. So I'm gonna show you how I replace them, how I diagnose them. I think it's important. And let's go through the whole process and put them back. So what are the difference compared to the stock Giant TCX SLR2 2017 model? What I have replaced is the handlebar tape. Now it's a silicone. It used to be foamy. Now it's waterproof and the gripping capabilities is just amazing. I also added some quad lock and a torch from Decathlon. Just don't buy this, it's not nice. Then if you go to the steering column, there are two bearings here, one at the top, one at the bottom. The top one is in a very good condition. The bottom one I had to replace it because it gets a lot of water inside and sand, and yeah, the gap is too big, but it needs to be done. Then the braking calipers are stock ones, however the brake pads are like an improved version. They used to be the L02A resin, now they are the L03A, and I don't feel the difference, but yeah, it's I replaced them. Then if we go to the saddle used to be stock one, now it's the active one from SQlab. Yeah, as you may know, this saddle is supposed to work as a suspension system, let's call it that way. The seat bone distance for the previous one, it was around 145 millimeters, and this one 150. So all my problems were solved by the time I replaced it. Then mudguard. This bike has been through a lot of mud, wind, ice, snow, rain. I mean, I use it mainly for commuting, so you can imagine. Anyway, I'm very happy with this machine anyway. The front and rear derailleur, they are the Shimano Tiagra. They just do the job very well. Although for the rear one, I have replaced the pulley set. This is a BBB aluminium with steel bearings. I really like them compared to the plastic one from the Shimano. It's just perfect. Then the crankset is from FSA Mega EXO. I will just go through this in a second. And for the cassette, this cassette, it's absolutely amazing. This is upgraded. The previous one was nickel plated from Shimano, and I think it was the 5000 series. This one is anodized aluminium. It's just perfect. Just the fact that you can separate all the discs individually, clean them, it's very durable. They don't get rusty. Same with the braking discs. The stock ones were getting rusty. These ones are stainless steel, and they are from Shimano. I absolutely love them. Tire wise, the stock ones were Schwalbe Super Swan. They were more oriented to cross trail or gravel, 35 millimeters width. These ones are 32, and since then I've been wearing 32 millimeters because I do more road trips rather than off-road trips. But in between this Continental Grand Prix 4 season and the Schwalbe Super Swan, I used to wear Schwalbe G1. They are very nice, although they wear out super quickly, and in these roads I used to get a lot of punctures, a lot. And from this one it's been already 7 months and I only had one puncture. So they say one puncture a year is good. So now I would like to describe how to diagnose a faulty bearing here. Well, this is the stock crankset. It's an FSA Mega EXO. It has 2 crank discs. This one is made of aluminium, this one from soft steel. This one I barely use, this one I use a lot, and I have replaced it already once. And well, you can already see how, yeah, it's already wearing out rather quickly. Well, how do I check if my bearings are working properly? Well, this is inside the bike, alright? And you are cleaning the bike, just remove the chain and try to spin this, let it whirl for a while. And once you release it, if this one keeps spinning and it stops gradually, and you can see that it looks that it will never stop, then just don't worry about your bearings. If you hear funny noises, or if it stops eventually, what you should do is what I did. Try to remove this crank set and check the bearings. In my case, I'm gonna just show you a picture right there. I pulled one out and yeah, it was rusty and it was making funny noises. So you may wonder, how did I pull them out? Well, first of all, I used a puller set from a car. I will show you in a second. But also you need to bear in mind that these bearings, they are glued, and something I didn't know. So it took a while. So I used like a clamp set here, I will show you in a second, and then you start pulling the bearing and they will come off. I used this set in order to pull the bearing out. I think it was this one here, because the inner diameter of the bearing is 19 millimeters. It was rather hard to find which kind of bearing, and it also is a weird inner diameter, at least from my knowledge. I can show you one of the bearings here. And what I tend to do with these guys is I remove the seal and I analyze how the grease is looking like inside. For one of them, the grease was gray and it tends to be white initially, alright? So the grease was gray. That means that there was even wear and tear around the whole bearing, like this one. For the other one, it was white in very many areas, and also it was orange/brown. That means the water managed to get in. And these are very hard steel bearings, and of course they get rusty. So I could feel a little bump when I was trying to spin it, like with all the grease and all the seals in. So what I decided to do is to remove the seals, clean everything, and degrease it. And with both of them in my hand, I was spinning both at the same time. You could clearly see that despite of not feeling any bump, one of them was stopping earlier than the other one. Another thing about these guys is that the bearing, it's well, this is the bearing housing, yeah, and in the corner, I don't know, you will not be able to see it, but I'm gonna just place a picture right there. There is a groove that usually is filled in with glue, because the bearing needs to be locked down, all right? Otherwise, because of the vibrations, it could just tilt a little bit, and then yeah, you will end up having an issue. So I spent a while trying to pull them out. My recommendation is to put like a rubber sheet, thick sheet around this perimeter, because you may end up bending everything like I did, and although it's not very clear. And one of the questions I had in mind is, what glue did they use for this one? Well, the glue was green. I checked with a very good colleague of mine. He has a lot of experience, and he said that most probably is a Loctite green. And the Loctite has a lot of them, from which after some research I realized that it could be Loctite 641 or 638. Ideally I would use here 641, but I was reading the instructions, and in order to remove the bearing you need to follow the same steps, which is heating up the area up to 250 degrees. There was no difference between both of them, but the strength. So I went far and I bought this Loctite 638. Of course this is much stronger, so instead of trying to fill the whole groove, I will just place a few dots in order to secure the bearing. And if I need to remove it later, well, I think it's going to become easier, because there is like a Teflon spacer here. If you heat up all of this to 250 degrees, I'm sure, I don't know if this will melt inside. I prefer just to use a bit of, well, rough force in order to remove them. So what am I going to do now? I first need to remove any remaining of the glue, which is almost done, but it's a bit dirty. And then we need to prepare the surface. This is aluminum. Usually you clean the surface. You are advised to use the primer from Loctite, which is based on acetone or IPA. So, well, I'm gonna take the risk. I'm gonna clean and prepare the area with acetone, and then I will add a few dots of Loctite 638. By the way, I will leave the Loctite handbook hyperlink just below, so you can have access if you are curious about glues. I think it's a freaking Bible. I love it. Anyway, I'm gonna place the bearing. I have a special tool there, and then we will check if everything works. As you can see, it's a bit dirty. You can see it there and there. So let's go and try to clean it up. I have already positioned some wood bits here, there, and here below. So everything could lay in a more or less even surface. So whenever I have to press the bearing, it will be inserting to the housing as straight as possible. This is what I meant to say with the Loctite. We need to remember this one is anaerobic, so in contact with oxygen it will not cure. It will cure in absence of oxygen, and this will happen without any primer or any activator. This will happen roughly in 3 days. I'm linking you the datasheet of the Loctite 638 so you can have a look if you're interested. It's funny because they say this is good for 18 millimeters. This is 19 millimeters, and it cannot really fit all the way through. Let's see what can we do. So how do I know the bearing it's all the way in? Well, I just measure this. It's 6.9 here. All right, and here is around 5. So 2 millimeters. Now, in order to get the 2 millimeters from here to verify, I just use the tip of the cotton bud. Just place it here. Yeah. I'm gonna make a mark, and I'm gonna measure below that mark. It should be something like this. I know it's not clear for you, but it's roughly this size. Yeah. Yeah. Off camera I can tell it's 2.1 millimeters, so it's good. One advice for you: never buy this tool. Look at that. They promise me it will fit from 18 millimeters to whatever is here. I think it's 68. Look at that. It's just not nice. Also, I don't know if I did properly, but as you saw me, I ended up using a mallet. This mallet, which is very nice. And finally, I took my mark tip and I just went all around the bearing to see if the whole bearing is positioned against the same, well, it's touching the whole surface. I just placed the bike upside down so I can continue assembling the rest of the crankset. We will see in the upcoming months if I did a good job. The only thing I want to point out is if you don't have that tool I had, which it really didn't help, but only for alignment against this surface and for the first push. Apart from that, you can use something else. I'd suggest something which is less resistant as this material, let's say aluminium or rubber, like a mallet, because if you use other tools, let's say a socket wrench, which I had in mind for some time, you can use a big one like a 32 socket wrench, and you just hit it. You can do it in the end, but very gently, but if you do it for the first hits, you will end up damaging all the bearing housing. It's not really advisable, but if you are really good, I think you can do that. Okay, now I am going to move to the next step, which is finish assembling the crankset. For that, I want to use some poly lube. This is from Practool, generic one. It's a nice, very not very viscous grease, and so far it's been helping me for 3 years. I really like it. It's very good to remove. It stays there when it needs to, and it's water resistant, and also it avoids some corrosion from your parts. Some only. If you have a very low temperatures, it will not help you. I am at this point in which I try to fit this part of the crankset, and you see there is still a lot of clearance here. So I think what you need to do is just with the mallet, just hit it from here, and there is no clearance anymore. So it's just yeah, just hit it very gently with a mallet, and I think it's your great friend here. Also, if you don't have a mallet, you can use a hammer, but just place a piece of wood here or something that will avoid any direct contact between the two metals, especially if this is aluminium. Now let's follow the same process but from the other side. First, well, I added some grease here, but not needed just yet. What we do is we place this sealing o-ring. It has two sides. One is it looks like a bit like tear down. I don't know if you can see it from here, yeah. And the other one just looks just perfect. Yeah, this side should be in contact with the groove, right? So just make sure that it's this way. Now it's in. Sorry, I needed the two hands for that. It's right here. I didn't use any grease. It's not contact with any rotation parts that will be in rotation. But for the next one, which is this one here, I will add a bit of grease. You can see here how it's all started wearing off. Yeah. All right. In my case, what I want is the grease to reach the groove that is very close to the inner diameter, because there is a little groove there, and I think that will help to spread it while parts are in rotation, and also it will seal against water a little bit. I don't think it's going to be too much, but I think that's the main purpose of this part. Now I'll continue with this one. I'm not really sure why, but there is sign here of wear, so I know it should be against this one, because, well, let me place it here, and now yeah, we have this spring washer. It's just rubbing it a little bit against grease. I think this is stainless steel, and placing this one will rotate probably, depending on when it will rotate with the pedal or with the bottom bracket with this side. So it needs some surface working as a bushing, so there will be less friction and less wear. That's my reasoning behind. And last but not least, this one. Remember 180 degrees, because I think once you fit it in, if you wanted to remove it, yeah, it's going to take some time. Now another washer. First, you need to. I would place a little bit of grease here, and then it just goes here. All right. Same reason as the other one. There is another part that will be rotating once you are tightening it into the bike. Now the tightening bolt. I am applying some grease in the thread and also on the base, because it will be in contact with the washer. So we just put it this way. Let the process begin. Don't forget to tighten this bolt from 38 to 40 Newton meters. It should be specified in the top of the bolt, but this one is a bit old and it's rusty, so yeah, I'm planning to replace it, but not now. Another washer comes in. This is merely for the purpose of removing or separating the crankset. All right, it's just, yeah, and I have a lot of grease there, but this is just a nerdy stuff. Yeah. These are my mental problems. And the last one. And you tighten this one counterclockwise. That's something I didn't really know. And yeah, there are specific tools, like here the one I have in my hand. This is from part 2. This is nice. It's a basic and nice. I like it. So that's it. So everything is finished, tightened to the required torque. I remember the bearings were showing some friction resistance, the new ones, so they were okay. I mean, the old one does the same, so I'm not expecting this to spin like crazily, and I think I will wait till I go for a few rides to see how it behaves, and I will try to disassemble it again to see if everything is okay. But so far you can hear friction. I think it's because of these rubber bushings, and yeah, I'm not feeling very confident with this, but I think it was like this previously. I was not feeling very comfortable with what I show you in the last few seconds, and yeah, I just untightened this bolt a little bit, well, quite a lot, to see if there is a problem in the bearings, or I didn't follow the process correctly. But now it's spinning very nicely, so I think it's just a required torque. I will just use a lower torque, because if I do this, all right, that's good.